G'day, everybody. Welcome to another experience, another deep dive, another jump down the rabbit hole into the world of Gene Keys. My name is Matthew Ashdown. I'm a Gene Keys guide, and every so often I like to draw upon this community of wise seekers and interview somebody from the world of Gene Keys who is somebody that I tend to meet along the way. Not tend to, I meet along the way. And today's guest is definitely somebody that I have enjoyed meeting throughout the last few years in the Gene Keys community. He's going to be somebody who's familiar to many of you, and I imagine we're going to have quite some entertaining conversation today, enlightening conversation. It will probably be Dream Arc fueled just knowing this gentleman, and so without further ado, I'm really going to introduce him. His name is George Freeman. And he is known throughout the community for his just showing up on pretty much every possible call you can imagine in the Gene Keys community, whether it's a Venus deep dive call, or whether it's a Dream Arc pod call, or whether it's the deltas that he's got, that he's been immersed in for these last few years. He is engaged, he is involved. And like everybody who comes to this work, he's got his own unique story of kind of jumping into this. So I want to welcome George, and I want to also straight off ask him how his journey with the Gene Keys and this work began. Hey,
Thank you,
George.
Matthew. Hey, Matt. Thank you so much for bringing me on and this is going to be a great little um just flow into our mystical adventure of whatever comes through and our freshness. But I just want to say that again, I appreciate this opportunity. So the Gene Keys um came to me after about almost 6 years ago now. But it was after I'd had a um, evolutionary astrology reading that sort of opened me up to like this like mystical approach to life. And in the astrology reading, the person said to always follow your north node. And so in my own style, once I got into the Gene Keys, I realized that the North Node was really not part of the Gene Keys. So then I sort of opened up the where the Gene Keys came from, the human design. And I seen the North Node was the 25th Gene Key. So I just started to follow that path of like looking at things that were showing up in my life and the synchronicities that were guiding me. And now, knowing from a dream arc perspective that the 25th gene key is the flamingo, I really like feel the call to create things based on this, flamingling with the matrix that I feel the whole my whole Gene Key journey has opened me to, with the synchronicities and the magic that have come through. So yeah, it's been about almost 6 years, and really just dove deep right from the get-go. When I first came across it, I think the thing that I read that really intrigued me was something. I think it was hologenesis in the core wound. It was the article, and when I read it, like the words were just like moving through me, like I couldn't put it down. And there was other things that I had read in my life to this point that were similar to what I felt the Gene Keys, and it's showing up, that were really, really interesting to me. And so this was one of them though, that once I got into it and it felt it just moving through me, that I just started having so many I call them syncy dinks, synchronicities, so many magical things. The trans like it's described as a living wisdom, and how you can read or listen or see something, and all of a sudden it's filtered through this living wisdom, and almost like you can listen to it over and over again and get something different from it every single time. So that's been a big part of my journey. One of the things that really, um, I guess, helped me to like go deeper was that when I did come across it, I started doing research on like on it and started like I found I guess not research but seek like searching for like the YouTube channel and different things, and I think I was on Gaia way back in the day, um, and I seen where the Gene Keys was mentioned as a path to enlightenment. In I think Regina Curtis or something, Meredith was doing a some things back then, and she still is, but this was considered to be like one of those pathways to enlightenment. And I feel like really enlightenment is not really like something out there, it's embodied. Gene Keys is an embodiment more, and it's like coming into the body. I really feel it as being a good human, just an ordinary human, but opened to the magic of how things are happening and flowing in our lives. So is that a good little segue into the next piece, I guess?
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and it's like really gives an introduction to who you are and how you came to this. And I think we're going to be hearing from a few different, let's say, animal guides from the world of Dream Arc today. So it's cool to hear how the flamingo played such a part in that for you in the 25th gene key. That gift of acceptance, like you said, that plays such a big part in the accepting of our humanity and the accepting of the ordinariness that makes us extraordinary. So it's like I love that, and it's just a big part of what's drawn me to this work of the gene keys too. And like you say, the transmission, that just you feel that transmission, you experience that transmission. And I love to you're a man of like you bring new words into this world, or at least you bring these words that just enliven our experience of it. So the syncy dinks, the synchronicities, and I love that terminology, and I'm sure we're going to hear many others that if George has this freedom with his words and expressing them, that is his own unique kind of it's almost like you could trademark them, but he's probably not, because he's sharing them freely in the Gene Keys way. But with this synchronicities, like we've talked about the dream arc, and I think that that's a great place to start. I'm a particularly big fan of the dream arc, as I know you are, and it's like these creatures, these animal creatures that show up in our lives that offer us such guidance when we're receptive and when we're listening. And this is something that I know about you, is that the timing of the receptivity. And actually, as we go into this today, I thought it'd be kind of fun. I have with me my phone here, and on it I have the DreamArc app and the DreamArc Oracle specifically. And my imagination took me to this place of, if I pressed this, that we could open up to synchronicity into this space, that we would call on a DreamArc guide, and we might share its wisdom. But I first, if anything, I want to hear if there's, let's see if there's any synchronicities that open up, and if George has a story, because I'm sure George does have a story related to a lot of these creatures. And if he doesn't, we'll explore it and just let's see what the synchronicities are. So can I start with that, George? You trust me with
Sure.
this?
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it's a great way to start into this, mystical world of the dream arc.
Yeah, we'll make it playful. And if by any small chance, the slim chance, but if by any slim chance it's not one George has come across in his journey, we'll explore it together. We'll crack it open. And then I know George does have some DreamArc stories that will just be potent for this space. So we trust the algorithm. This is for anybody else as well. So anybody else who's listening, watching, perhaps this will have something for you. Oh, George. Well, see, okay. I like the synchronicity. I think you're going to appreciate it.
Oh, you can't make this
You
shit
can't make
up.
this shit up. Yeah, it's okay. You can swear here. We're okay with that. That's like George is known for. I am in other DreamArc calls with other people, and people will say, to quote George Freeman, "You can't make this shit up." And so this might be called. That might be the name of the episode. We'll see. But yes, so the creature is the sloth, which for anybody involved in the work of the gene keys is about the 33rd gene key. Now, George, can you tell me something about your relationship to sloth and the 33rd gene key, perhaps?
Well, I most definitely can, because the 33.3 happens to be my life purpose. And, Matthew, I have a t-shirt that has the sloth on it. This is "Don't hurry, be happy." So it's been my motto, for quite a few years. And it's also allowed me to deepen into the mindfulness. That's what the sloth is. It's mindfulness in that 33 gift that sort of comes through when we really, pause. And we just pause and we really think about, our life and the bigger picture. And I feel that more, since this is my purpose, it's coming through from a core stability. And this core stability is about being, it's this being the change that we want to see in the world, like Gandhi said. But we've been so programmed to do, and we even try to. We come across a quote like that, and we're like, well, how do we do that? But this is what I feel the whole, really the whole bigger picture of my life has been about, because I came from the call it the matrix programming, which isn't bad, but it's a program that we have to like to to really look at, as in, what is it that other people are really projecting on us that we should do. In other words, it's an ego build, right? You get to the sloth, you get to the purpose, and it's like, oh, wait a second, how am I doing this from my being? So whatever somebody says I should do, is it really mine or is it theirs? Or how do I go about this with more mindfulness? And so that's, my way is to really just listen to myself, and once I felt like that core stability came through, like I said, I've been around the Gene Keys for about 6 years. I feel like there's a backdrop to life that's very slothy. That shirt that I have, this t-shirt says "Don't hurry, be happy." It's really this, almost like a cosmic, consciousness sort of becomes the whole backdrop of life. And actually, the 33 gene key becomes all 64. The 33rd is like a stop codon, right? So it's like, ooh, stop, look, and listen. And it allows me to listen deeper to life than I ever have before. Um, you know, so yeah, that's a pretty cool synchronicity, syncy dink, that I just love it. I love it. And in the dream arc, it's all about slowing down so that we can deeply listen. Um, and, you know, so thank you, Sloth, for, coming through in the sinky dink of the sloth today. But the only other sinky dink that could have been better is if I would have wore that t-shirt.
Yeah, that would have made it. Oh yeah, that would
Yeah.
have been. I think it's pretty cool though. I mean, this to me, this is the kind of thing that shows up when we work with this stuff, whether it is the gene keys or the dream arc, is this kind of synchronicity. It's like, that wasn't programmed in. It's not like it's voice recognition saying, "Oh, that's George
Yeah.
Floyd. I'm going to pop up his purpose." But I think it gives us something to crack open and work with the rest of this call, because I love everything you were saying there. And the sloth is something that features quite a bit in throughout the dream arc. And it was funny, the other day actually I saw a video, and it was a sloth on a speedboat going down a river. Excuse me. And he's going down this river. He's just sitting there and he's just looking forward, and a guy's filming him. And the caption under, so this power boat's going pretty fast down the river. And the caption above the video says, "I just saved this sloth 50 years." Right? And it's like, so it like brings together these two aspects. It's like the whole gift of the sloth. And you see this throughout the G mark, is to pause, to reflect, to be able to sit with it, be with it. And when I've done these interviews with other people, very often the purpose sphere is one that it's like it lights up, because this is the being that you're emanating into this space. And so, this moves from the shadow of forgetting to the gift of mindfulness, which you kind of reflected on there, and it's the city of revelation. And for those who are listening, some who may be playing with this, it's like, yeah, it's like, so what would the sloth point to? And actually, we have the newt, I believe. Yeah, the newt is the fear key that's associated with that shadow. And I'm just wondering what your experience of that has been in your own life. Like, moving through you said like that unlocking, it's our own personal journey, unlocking ourselves from the matrix. And so how is that shadow of forgetting, what happens when you forget who George Freeman really is? How does that transpire for you?
Well, yeah, so that it's interesting because I had just seen a newt. It was a few weeks back when I was about to actually travel back to Florida. I was mentioning to Matt that I was last week. I was involved with helping my mom deconstruct a house that she was going to reconstruct to live in for the rest of her life, and so it was an interesting thing. But I was having to, in a way, I was moving on a daily basis. I was like listening to what the energy was of me either staying to help her or going back to Florida to do something for my brother. And the newt shows up, and it really showed me to like I feel like this forgetting is, to me, is the basis of the art of contemplation, which was the gene keys, right? So it's like it allows when a fear creature shows up, and especially if it's the newt or something that's right there in your profile, it allows us to like stop and feel into, is what we're doing for the highest good of all. And if you go and you read the guidances of these animals or these creatures, or consult one of us gene key guides or someone that's in the dream arc to get a little bit of guidance, based on what animal keeps showing up in your face, because it's like these animals are rewilding us. They're allowing us to move through our own processes of slowing down and becoming more mindful, and to allow ourselves to step into mindfulness instead of forgetting that, hey, wait a second, I'm the one in control here. And this new showed me that I, just communicate, express, and see if what you're doing is just something that's in your head, or is it something that's coming through your heart and allowing you to move through life with more coherence, and seeing the bigger picture. And when I actually felt that, this is when I decided to call my brother and ask him, hey, what do you think? And he's like, stay as long as you feel is right. And I did. I stayed right until every board had been stripped. I left my mom like a house that was just bare bone, ready to reconstruct. The deck was removed, all the lumber and everything was taken away, and a dumpster was full of trash. So yeah, that new yeah, really came through to help me to orient to this inner journey that so many have become disoriented by because of our programming. So yeah, pay attention to those insects, animals, and reptiles that come through. And yeah, that's the gift of the dream arc. I really feel the dream arc is just that. It's the waking dream.
Yeah, and it's using you. It's like it's working through you, and I love it. And just hearing your stories of traveling around so much, and moving from one place to the other. Because last week you were in the States, and now you're up here in Canada, eh?
Hey.
And so welcome to Canada. And that it can be so easy in those times for us to slip into forgetting, to just sharing your journey there. I think is, that's so important, is like, even when we're busy, we can still be in the mindfulness. In fact, that's when we need to be really practicing the mindfulness. And I love the sloth. For anybody who hasn't dived into it, in the work of the dream arc, the sloth kind of gets its own oracle. It's like, throughout the dream arc program, if you find yourself moving too quickly, you can go along to the sloth article, and it will give you something like a meditation or a contemplation, so you can just take a pause in life, So it's there as as a really great reminder in that way. So I love that it's the creature that's kind of holding us in this space, and how it resonates with George's very purpose and very reason for being here, literally being. And by the way, you can reach out to George Freeman at beinggeorgefreeman@gmail.com, which I'll put down below, and we'll give more at the end. In relation to all that. But I want to continue this kind of journey as well through the dream arc and through your own profile as well. And because I know you shared some stories about, like, because one of the first things I asked George is he's usually got a museum of artifacts from the dream arc, so to speak, around him. And I asked just before we came on, like, is there anything that's kind of been popping into your life recently? And you actually had a couple of animals that, one very much related again to your personal Gene Keys profile. And if you're working with a dream arc, I really want to state this, is you don't have to be working with the Gene Keys necessarily. So you can be working with these animals without any direct connection to a personal profile. We can receive these messages and imbibe these messages. And so, yeah, there's been some recent ones that have popped up that I thought had pretty cool stories around them. Would you mind sharing them here in this space for everybody? And then we can explore them a little bit together.
Sure, sure. One of the ones that's most significant that's um, is not in my profile, but it's the programming partner of one that is, which is the fifth gene key, line 6 in my EQ. The programming partner is the 35, and it just happened to be that I was on my journey, moving through this helping my brother. Let me just say this, that this is my second time in Canada. The first time I came through and got into Canada, I went across the border by car, and the border patrol really wanted to, like, the I guess the immigration office was saying that I was 99.9% of the people they would not let into Canada. And my partner, here in Canada, who I stay with, is Saran Archer. So many of you may know her. Sort of introducing you, is she's my partner that I've been really connected to for a little over, well, almost a year and a half now. And so many of you may know her. So surprise, surprise. And that she was while I was being sort of, I guess, interrogated at the immigration office. She was holding mudras and doing the lady's prayer. And we go back to the desk, and the guy says, "Well, I Googled you. I like what I see." And he gave me basically a 4 month stay in Canada. Well, then this is when Richard Rudd announced that he was coming right after, because this was in March. Right after that, he announced he was coming in May. And I was like, well, I'm here for 4 months. I don't know, what's going to happen. And then I was like, well, if it's going to happen, magic is going to come through. So sure enough, about 2 weeks before, my brother contacted me and said he needed some help in Syracuse, New York, which is only about 4.5, 5 hours from where I'm at. And so I go back across the border after only 2 months of being here and thinking, well, if it happened once, it'll happen again. And of course it did, because I'm here. But in between, leaving here and coming back, the 35th gene key was in transit. And of course, I did exchange energy with my brother, helping him to get out to Boulder into the Mystic and all that good stuff. And then I was visiting with my sister, and the 35th gene key had just gone into I seen the email come through in the Pulse. And like less than a couple hours later, she hands me this package. She had come across this right here. And this is the yak. It's the 35th. It relates to the 35th gene key in the dream arc. Of
Which
course,
is
we don't
about
have.
which
It's
is
about
about
adventure.
adventure, right?
Yes.
The gift of
So the
adventure.
yes, the gift of adventure, and so the shadow of hunger, the gift of adventure, and the city of bounteousness, or boundlessness. Bounteousness is the 14. So boundlessness. And it's referred to as, wormholes and miracles, and the back door to bliss. And yeah, it was another one of those you can't make this shit up moments. So this right here, this is, I wear a hat because I feel like it's like, this is my epic adventure. In fact, when I went to a real quick story, when I went to Into the Mystic, the person that I was supposed to room with, um, they had purchased their ticket. I got there on a Thursday, a little bit early, and they had purchased their ticket. So I'm going to sort of share an adventure story with you real quick. They purchased their ticket to get there that day on Thursday, but they didn't get the COVID vaccine, and they were coming from Canada. And the COVID vaccine requirements didn't lift until Friday. So they had to rebook everything. We already had the hotel at the Omni, and it was just like, okay, well, I sat in the hotel in the airport and felt like, okay, well, what do I do? And I was just gonna like write a sign, Broomfield, Gene Keys, whatever, and have see who showed up. Well, since I was early, there wasn't anybody, of course, in the airport much on a Thursday. Most people showed up on Friday or even Saturday because the event wasn't until Sunday. But there was something in me, and the person that I was connected with that was coming um, was a Gene Key guide, Lori Hill. So she says to me, she says, "Why don't you just get a Lyft and or an Uber, and just get to the hotel? You can check in at 4 o'clock, and maybe if you get there early, you can just sort of be in the lobby and see who shows up." So I was like, okay. So I get the lift. I said to the guy, I said, I'm on an epic adventure. And I actually, um, he says, well, how much time do you have? And he ends up taking me on a route. And it was raining really, really hard up there in Boulder. And I guess it had been for quite a while because there was flooding everywhere and they were fixing potholes. And he ends up taking me on the sort of lower road through Denver to get to Boulder instead of taking the toll road, which came out right at where the hotel is. And interestingly enough, it took an hour and 45 minutes. But in that hour and 45 minutes, I gave him a gene key reading. I explained, like some of the animals in the dream arc. And I happened to look at my phone that was opened. And I have on my phone, I have the dynamic screen lock, which I can program to change every 2 weeks, like 6 or 7 animal characters that will come up. So, it's just another little trick and tip of mine to sort of pull me into the dream arc or into the gene keys just by synchronicity and spontaneity. So I looked at my phone on my lap and it was the squirrel. And I says, oh, I said, here's the squirrel, and it's related to the 36 gene key, which is in my profile in the SQ. I have the 36 line 5. And of course, this is my little squirrel called Humanity that my sister gifted me. And of course, the I Ching coins, this little bracelet from another gift from Saran. And so I had this opportunity to explain to him, a little bit about the Gene Key Dream Arc. And then he looks up and he says, oh, and we're on Route 36. And when I got to the hotel, I got out and I left my earbuds on the seat because right there in front of me was Elijah. Elijah Parker, for many of you know, is like one of the core people in the Gene Keys, along with Tamayo and Rosie and Richard. And so I give him a big hug and then just walk in and there's Rosie and Richard checking in. And so I give them a big hug. And so that hour and 45 minutes was like a no thing, right? There was nothing. In fact, I even left my earbuds on the guy's seat and, didn't even like ever get them back. I think he messaged me back, said he found one, but it didn't matter. It was like the fact that I got there in that. And then when I gave them all a hug, and many of you have seen the posts that I posted on the Gene Keys Global. Well, Rosie says the dream arc has landed, when she turned around and seen me. And it was just amazing to feel that sort of adventure. come to like a pinnacle right there of this is what we show up for. We show up for the magic to happen in this type of way. And it was just a beautiful experience. The whole weekend was a magical experience. I had so many stories that I could go into, Matt, but we would be here for another hour, two, three, maybe a couple days. It just is what it is. It's what life becomes, magical.
Love it.
So,
I love it. I love that. Just like jumping into that spiritual adventure, courtesy of the yak, and then its connection with your squirrel there, and yeah, because there's like these channels that form in human design, and the 36, the gift of humanity, forms this channel with the 35th gift of adventure. Although they've got slightly different terminology in human design, but at the same time, there's you can see these relationships, and just what I'm hearing as well in your story, knowing what I do know, which is that your life's work gene key is the 24th gene key, the gift of invention. And it's like this, which is so much about really embracing the not knowing. And that's what I'm hearing
mm,
and just how you live your life. It's a very kind of feminine approach to it. The dream arc, the dream arc, it really speaks to me. I'm not too far off you in birthdays. I'm a May 8th birthday. So, it's like we have the 24th gene key followed
mm,
by the second gene key, which is the gift of orientation. Two very kind of feminine energy kind of keys, and we're drawn to this feminine transmission, but at the same time being rooted in this masculine approach to it as well, or an integration of it rather, but the freshness of that. Um, and so as you're talking there, it's just like I'm hearing this like, yeah, this is for me, this work with the dream arc is that the just trusting in what life brings us, trusting in that trusting that inner yes. You felt that inner yes. It's like I got to go into the mystic. You didn't know you were going to meet Elijah and Richard and where you were going to meet them. In fact, it looked like you didn't know what you were going to do at that time, but in your embracing that and just going with it, this adventure showed up for you. And to me, that's the nature of the dream artwork. And I'm kind of excited to talk about it because we are stepping into a time when you're going to hear more of that from the dream arc community and the Gene Keys community because we have a deep dive. Um, and this deep dive will be for about 3 months, beginning in September, where many of us will come together and explore this and experience you'll experience the George Freeman way of living. It's like, it's really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. And as we explore this together, and you're now back here in Canada, probably things are starting to. Would I be right to say things are settling down, or is it just that particular adventure is coming to a close? You're integrating that spiritual adventure. You're integrating that time into the mystic. So what's unfolding for you right now? What I do know is as well, George has also been very invested in the work of the Delta. And so he's going to update us now because there's a counter going on through the number of deltas that George has been through. And for those who don't know it, the Delta is this beautiful dance that takes place between 7 people coming together and taking it in turns to anchor in and embody a particular gene key of these 7 particular gene keys. And so George has been journeying through this Delta. And I know that you've done it so many times because it's something that really speaks to the soul of who you are. So I'm just wondering, like, are you in a Delta right now? And what's that birthing for you in your world and in your life?
yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, I'm not in the deltas per se, but I'm in the star of consciousness, which is like the second phase of a delta. And synchronistically, I have been um, the position generator opened up for me to be in the hive in the wisdom sort of section. So in the hive, there's like pairs of 2 different people. In the hive, there's 6 people. That's in the very center of the triangle, and then there's pentas on the outside that we're associated with. So I'm associated with the wisdom penta, which Richard refers to as the divine, masculine. So it's really interesting. After doing 12 deltas, Matthew, 12 deltas, that I feel this sense of purity. And when I feel purity, it's always thinking about how is life unfolding from the purity of my being, so it is a little bit slothy in a way. In fact, yesterday, another little synchronicity, sinky dink, decided to go to a park really close by called Anchor Park. And I'm like, oh, I really like this. And so there was a soccer field there with freshly mowed grass. Took my shoes off and took my shirt off, pulled my shorts up, and just got some sun walking back and forth on this grass for probably an hour, hour and a half. In fact, I almost can't wait to go back to it today because I feel like this is like this, I guess, this anchor, this grounding of everything in my life is what I feel is exactly needed for what's going to unfold from here. Um, and I have this shirt on, with the flamingo that I want to really like go into my own creation of and co-creation of something similar to what you're doing right here, interviewing guides and gene key people that are just stepping into and stepping up to this art of contemplation, this new way of being, this new human blueprint that's coming through, I call it, and this, almost like we're co-creating the new earth and the new blueprint. And to have this feeling like, okay, this is exactly what's needed for me, instead of like getting here and feeling like I have all these things I want to do, because that can be a little overwhelming. And so I actually am grateful that I just listen a little longer than most people do before I just, put stuff out that may be out of sync with the timing that I feel is right. And so, where are we? Where was the question? Did I go down a path? Did I go down the right path to get an answer for what you were asking? Because I know we were talking about how the dream arc is going to be coming up, and
Yeah,
the unknown.
it's okay to pause here for a moment, George. I got a little fly buzzing around me, so it's like it's got its own little message for us about stepping. It's landed on my head. Go look at
I
that.
see it. I see it.
I'm getting a
Oh,
visitation from a fly live on this conversation. So, well, and the fly in the world of Dreamark is about bringing that presence to this moment right here. So, and then taking these pauses and you know it's about the fear of not missing out. So it's like there's nothing, we're not missing anything here. So you're right on track. And no, thank you for sharing everything you shared there, because that's exactly I'm the star of consciousness, which is this evolution of the delta, I think is really interesting. And so underlying all of that is this theme of synarchy that is so potent
mm,
within the transmission of the gene keys. And this is what I'm hearing, and what you're sharing is that there's a love of this. The bee is associated with the synarchy. It's the hive. It's the all in service to some ideal that we resonate with in our heart. And so, as this fly continues to buzz around me, and I continue to absorb its lessons and come deeper into the present moment, I am going to be listening to you. It's on my forehead now. Okay, this is interesting. Um, Sometimes, and the fly is about, it's like, there's got to be something in this. Like this hasn't happened on any other call. When we can see a fly could be an annoying thing, but it's like, here's something. No, okay, I'm going to receive the blessings from this. So what in this moment is the fly? Maybe George has an offering for me around what the fly might be bringing to me in this moment. But I want to really listen to what your thoughts are on this notion of synarchy, and what speaks to you so deeply about it.
yeah. Well, Synarchy too, it's my evolution. And if you looked at a Gene Key profile, and so you got that word challenge right there. So it'd be my greatest challenge. And in the contemplation of it, I realized it was all about being in the moment, like be here now, I say, and allowing life to show you exactly what is needed to actually take another step. And not that there's any right or wrong step. It's just the step that you take. Can it be more open? Can you accept yourself more for who you are? Can it be so this synarchy approach is to allow everyone to be just as they are, to be just as they are. Richard talks about that at the end, and it really um one of the greatest practices for this be for people to be as they are is get in someone's car and drive around with them, and feel how someone does things and just allow them to be like we're just along for the ride. And if we can get to that level, it's like for me, if I can get to that level where I can just allow a person to do everything the way that they've ever been programmed to do, like there's a self-organizing principle that I feel is on is part of the whole programming, and that's what the Star of Consciousness really brings through too. It's like this, it's a self-organizing thing. We're giving different roles, different models to play in, but one of the things I just sort of skipping over here because I want to bring this in the Star of Consciousness, instead of like giving different positions, different gene keys to contemplate every week, you're just given one per month. And mine was the 23rd gene key from the Oracle. And the biggest message I received from that was the simplicity of the whole ball of wax. The whole big, living transmission of the gene keys is have fun. That's like the simplicity of it all, is to have fun. So again, I think I went out and hopefully I came back. But yeah.
Well, the flies left me alone now, so yeah, I think you pulled it back into something there, and so the for those wondering too, the Star of Consciousness isn't something that's available yet to the whole world, as it were. This is something I believe, George, you're getting to be one of the guinea pigs, which isn't even in the dream arc, but you're one of the guinea pigs working with this program, right? And so much of this is an experiment, really, for humans, because we don't know how to live like the bees do, and we don't know how to kind of pollinate necessarily. What we do know inside of us somewhere, it's just that maybe we haven't experienced the true depth of synarchy that we're kind of experimenting with here with the Star of Consciousness. But that's true, isn't it? That this is something that's to birth, and you're kind of like one of these people working with it in these early stages and playing with it and refining it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's exactly what's happening. You have, in order to be part of a star of consciousness, as it is going to unfold, to be more and more stars that come through. And what we're doing is creating a philanthropic project for humanity. Um, that's what the whole purpose of these people, 21 people coming together. So yeah, you have to have done 3 deltas at least, and then obviously put your name in the hat that you're open to it. And so by that time, if you're new to a delta or new to anything, it should be a lot of things refined. You'll get some probably ideas of the people that have gone before that help to like pave the way. But it is, again, Matthew, it's a bunch of like the unknown, and becoming comfortable with the unknown. That's what, to me, into the mystic and into the mystery. When I embrace my story, it's like in its totality, then it opens up this door of mystery. It's like almost like stop looking at his story, embrace my story to unlock the mystery.
There's
And
another one of those word weavings that you do so well. I love it. I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And I just hear it again and again. And of course, this is the influence of the sloth, but this is the emanation of who you are. And like for myself, I'm somebody. It's even, in fact, this message from the bee. Sorry, the fly that's been flying around here, right? And it's almost like it feels like it's such an important thing to come through in all of this. Is that the nature of contemplation and pausing and slowing down, and it's that this 33rd gene key purpose is about that too, taking the retreat and slowing down. And, in a world that is busy and it's busy, busy bees and busy moving around and busy doing stuff, it's like so much of what I've learned from this is has been about kind of even overcoming the fear of slowing down, because like the fly tells me that people might fear slowing down because they might miss out on something exciting. Thank you, fly, he's back again, just like that. This is crazy.
Mhm.
Anyway, I accept your teachings, Mr. Fly. And so with these pauses, these reflections, like how has that been in your life too? Like I came from a background of like, was conditioned as a man to go out and do this and get things done and get it done in my time and make things happen. Like I'm wondering, how has that been for you, and kind of really allowing yourself to slow down and harmonize with all of life, which is what I'm hearing you're receiving from the quintessence of your contemplation right now. So how has that been?
Yeah.
How has that slowing down process been for you in your life?
Well, it's interesting that my life is really about feeling the flow of my own, like allowing my heart to be the guide. And so it's like, for instance, the fly showing up is like, what is in my head? What does it make me feel like what do I need to do? Like, do I need to do something? Do I need to kill the fly? Do I need to swat the fly? Do I need to get a fly swatter? No, allow the fly to be, but let the fly like share with us, like, um, that we do need just to like expand, become more expansive, and allow ourselves to breathe and pause and just to be here and feel like, are we trying to do something? Are we allowing it to come from the coherence, the core of my being? And is the timing even right for whatever it is that wants to come through? So it's like that, that um presence again. It's moving from superficiality to self-assurance to presence, right? So and that's how presence comes in, when we really feel that self-assurance coming from that emanation of our heart and, us being a guide. And for me, um, I worked in manufacturing all my life. I had let me just go back real quick. If 5 years old, I was told not to ask questions, and I really became sort of a conformist to like whatever was happening. Just do it my way. I ended up getting involved with the religious aspect of you must be born again, and there's only one right way. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's another way that I feel can be more can a person can be more opened up to, because I feel like there is no one right way. It's all, uniqueness. It's all finding the middle way. It's finding the balance. Life is all about balance. And this is the living wisdom of the gene keys, just takes us back to balance time and time again, the yin and the yang. And we just have 64 different ways of looking at it. Or 192 aspects of the dream arc that allow us to synthesize the living wisdom in our own life. And so, yeah, I just became one of those that I just did the program. I went to school, was, didn't, my mom had just told me recently that I did not like to learn. I was a daydreamer. I wanted to be out in nature. I wanted to be doing something besides just like being in school. And the teacher like started doing star charts, and giving me rewards. And then I can remember an instance where my dad even used to give me candy bars for laughing at his dry jokes. And it was like there was this program almost to be dishonest about how things were happening in my life. And anyway, to bring it to full circle, I after getting the gene keys and being around it for 3.5 years, I was laid off during COVID from manufacturing, and I just started following my intuition more and really just moving through and feeling the support of of life and the flow of it. And I haven't had a job, so to speak, for a little over 2 years, but I've been supported fully. I've done energy, I call it just energy exchange, for when I felt like something was needed in my life, or someone I've been that's how I've been living my life in the last few years. And so now with that, I feel like there's a bubble of creativity that's about the birth, because I have the first gene key, line 5, in my core wound vocation. And so, as you know, that gene key well
The gift of
too.
freshness. Yes, that fresh creativity. Yes, I have that one twice in my chart as well. So tell us a little bit then. What is it what do you feel birthing? What are you midwifing into the world at this time? Do you care to share, or is it too
I
early?
can,
Because I know you just talked about, not rushing through things and letting things. So is now a good time to let some of it out of the bag for you?
yeah, for sure, because I really feel like this is going to be coming on pretty quick. Um, with what I'm feeling like, I almost feel like I'm in this place of pause to birth, like to birth this um project, this synarchical project that's coming through me. And it's a result of being on countless I've been on, I think there's been 6 online retreats since COVID. So it's really helped me to tune into using Zoom as a presence, as a space holder for presence and the cultivation of this. And I almost feel like Zoom is a terma, just like Richard says that Gene Keys is a terma. It's a tech. This is a Zoom is a technology for the time, and so is a Gene Keys. But the Gene Keys is like an embodied living transmission that's opened us up to this marvelous time in humanity, that many um, can look at as the return of so many different the mystical, like a mystical aspect. I mean, the return of Christ, the return of Quetzalcoatl, all these different pieces. um, and I feel like, in a way, in a mystical way, the synarchy approach is we're not pulling the sword from the stone, we're actually holding onto the sword all together, and we're putting the sword back in the stone, and it's creating wholeness. And so this is what I feel is coming through for me. It's called the synarchy experience, and it's based on 12 people going through any program, but having their contemplations of that are similar or they're different, because they might be looking at a profile, but also maybe having a guide key or whatever it is. Maybe pulling from the oracle, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. When we give our attention to the contemplation of this living wisdom, it lives through our experience. And so the one thing that happens is the awareness that life is happening for us in every moment becomes so alive. And then once we get that awareness, is like there's even a deeper awareness that life is not just happening for us, it's happening through us. And we are living the experience of life. And so this has allowed me to feel into this project called the Synarchy Experience, where 12 people come together. We divide up almost, and this is coming a little bit from the Delta and from the just the community call basis, where we go into breakouts. And so this 3 people, there's going to be 12 people with 4 different partnerships of 3, and we just come together and we create more of an intimate interaction. And so as we change the algorithm for 12 people would be that we don't have the same 2 partners for like 12 weeks. But who doesn't want to be in partnership with some of the partners that you already had? So it doesn't matter how many different times or how many, and people want to do this time and time again. I've done 12 deltas because I love building relationships, but the greatest relationship I've been focused on was the one with myself. And so I feel like that mirrored approach to, like, what that people trigger people, but do they? Or is it me triggering me to show up more for me? And so that's almost like the I'm the only one here approach to life, and that everybody else is just a character in the play of George Freeman. So again, it's why being George Freeman is sort of like my movie.
Oh,
So
characters in each other's movies, aren't we? And
mm,
experiences. Absolutely. So the Synergy experience, and so this is something that's birthing right now. So if you're somebody who wants to reach out to George and connect with him, we've got the email down below here, being George Freeman. And so that, of course, as you journey with him, this will be this experience with him and 11 other beings. Is that correct? You're one of those
well,
12?
right now, I could be one of the 12 or in the beginning, because I want to, but then eventually I want to create, in a way, I want to create this template for guides to use as, for me, building intimacy is what I feel is one of the most important aspects of using these technologies for what they are, the gene keys along with Zoom. And so, yeah, I want to make this um, really practical and useful for not just myself, but for a template for just intimacy, for the ongoing contemplation of the gene keys, the dream arc, or anything. And one of the things I also love too, Matthew, is the dream arc has its a really vast um, a really vast synchronistic programming, in 12 different categories. And it's really beautiful and a lot of good things. But I thought about, wow, this could be pretty fun to just go through and, synchronistically, as you move through these 12 different categories, if you had people in these type of groups where you're just like popping, through this type of synarchical experience approach. So I'm like, oh, I'm excited to like really play with it a little bit here and there to I have to get 12 people though to play with me too. So if you're one of those and you feel the call um to do this is actually a project too that I sort of brought up in my Star of Consciousness, and I just sort of put it out there. But this is, I guess, another way to give it voice, because I feel like it's coming through me, and whether we, as a a bigger group, decide to tackle this for the highest good of the Gene Key community or not, it's like that's what is coming through me. So anyway,
Perfect. I love it. Knowing what's coming through us yeah, and the creativity and the imagination, and I love, one of the things around Synergy is like there's different projects that I've been working on, for instance, with different people, and then seeing how it looks like they're different projects, but then seeing how they weave around the same kind of ideal, and how a particular idea I've had that the moment, it's like seeing that somebody else over here has had an idea that can be related to it, and there's this way of drawing in, so you're going to draw in those 12 that are going to gather with you. I have no doubt about it. So being George Freeman at gmail.com is where you can reach him. And I think we've chatted for a good hour here, so I'm really appreciating this conversation, and I've loved the synchronicity from the get-go. I've loved these themes of slowing down. I did take the liberty of drawing upon the wisdom of the fly, and I think this echoes some of it. So I pulled it up on the codex on the Dream Arc, and it's about the presence, and talks about how actually, like the bees. So there's no bees here, so maybe they had to deliver a fly to get the message across. Like the bees, we are pollinators, but unlike bees, we are hardy and can survive in harsh environments. um and then it pops on, but this was something that stood out because I think this was such an important piece, and I think George really brought this message through. And whether it's through the messaging from the sloth or something similar, to be present means to pause often. To be present means to do things slowly, in a measured way. To be present means you will have to change the entire fabric of how you live your life. Busy, busy, busy. Buzzy, buzzy, buzzy. Very little you do has any importance. The most important thing is flow. George was talking about flow earlier. We fly's flow. Watch us as we move from one thing to the next, from one place to another, as we return and return. We are caught in a flow. Of course, we too have our problems and challenges, the spider for one. But we too are food for many, and gratefully so.
Yeah, I love it. You know, that's really it's a great way, I guess, to end this, Matthew, because it is about flow and it's about listening to the intuition that comes through as we actually start to pause, you know, more often and to be guided by our hearts instead of, you know, letting our heads take over and making us feel like we need to do something, you know, and we just need to maybe stop, look and listen a little bit more. So much love. Thank you.
Thank you, George. What a great way to finish. Nice little summary and nugget. So I'm glad the fly has served its purpose, and I think that's something that we've got here from this conversation with George. And just it is the realm of the dream arc as well, and the gene keys is that life is a living wisdom transmission, and we have all these things. I could just completely ignore that fly and just kind of bat it off, but we've nurtured its lesson here in this moment, and I think that's pretty amazing. So George, thank you very much for coming along. George, you can catch George in the Gene Keys community. He is a guide. He does one-on-one sessions. I know that too. He's also hosted some of the Venus deep dives. I'm sure we'll see him in the communities more and more as the time and the years go by. But for now, it's been great having you here. I love our conversations. George is also somebody we've joined together. In fact, this is where we met. Really, it was in a Gene Keys group for men about 3 years ago, almost. 3 years ago almost, and we've been journeying together as a group of men, pausing together and reflecting together. And so it's been really awesome getting to know George and the other men in that group. And so George, I really appreciate you coming along and look forward to seeing your work in the community and continuing to develop these intimate relationships. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing, Matthew, is I do have a bio site that I was working on and refining too. So it might be easier sometimes if someone wants to go to the bio site, you know, can connect with me there too. And I'll off the top of my head, remember the bio site name was probably one of the things I should have like had ready for you for this podcast, but then you
You
can
know
always
what?
put it
It'll be at the bottom when they're watching it. It'll be
yeah,
there. It'll be streaming across the bottom.
right there.
So, boom! In time, it was there, even if it's not
Yeah.
here right in this moment. So awesome!
All
Yes, we can
right,
send them
cool.
there. Thanks a lot. Thank you, George. Thank you,
All right.
everybody. As I took a little bit of a break there. I ended up going on traveling to the UK and had a few planned for that time that I was away, but things don't always go according to plan, but this is the divine plan. We've got George here this week, and you'll continue to see me interviewing people from within this community, diverse offerings, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences, something that will resonate with you on your own journey. What do you see in the stories? What do you hear in the stories of others that supports you in your own raveling? So I look forward to the next one, and I'll keep it a mystery because we love a mystery here in the Gene Keys, but there will be somebody popping up here on your TV screen or your computer screen on this YouTube channel. Subscribe. Remember to subscribe if you want to get the notifications. So every time an interview pops up, you'll get a notification. So thank you very much. Thank you, George. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week. We'll see you next time.